It just pisses me off. And then
you're good. Take a break. Take a break.
Yeah, take a breather.
We
can sit.
Jake Paul just cried his eyes out after Mike Tyson roasted him in front of everyone at the press conference. Jake strutted in, all pumped up, ready to run his mouth about how tough he is and how he's going to crush Tyson in the ring. But then, he came face to face with the baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson. A guy who's been dealing with loudmouths like Jake for 4 decades.
You need to come tell me in my face.
Whoa.
Tyson's seen it all, and he knows that talking big means nothing without the skills to back it up. So when Jake started his trash talk, Tyson didn't even blink. Instead, he delivered a verbal beatdown that was so precise, so brutal, it had Jake practically in tears by the end. Tyson's words weren't just empty threats like Jake's. They were calculated, sharp, and hit Jake harder than any punch ever could. The world got an absolute treat on August 18th when Jake Paul and Mike Tyson went head-to-head in New York City. Not in the ring, but at a press conference that quickly turned into the roast of the century. The buzz was electric, with everyone eager to see how Jake, the king of internet trash talk, would fare against Tyson, a man whose fists have told more stories than Jake's mouth ever could. Jake strutted in like he owned the place, throwing out his usual mix of cocky arrogance and sharp insults, thinking he could rattle Tyson with some good old-fashioned smack talk. But let's be real here. This wasn't just any opponent he was facing. This was Mike Tyson, the guy who's been shutting down loudmouths for longer than Jake's been alive. Jake's attempt to flex was as cringeworthy as you'd expect.
Joke. He's saying that it's going to be my funeral. He's saying it's going to be my wake. He's going to kill Jake Paul, all of these things. And
he declared, trying to convince everyone, and probably himself, that he was about to end Tyson's career. But then, he topped it all off with the biggest joke of the day.
I love Mike, I respect him, but we're not friends anymore. Until November 15th, I'm knocking this out.
Knocking out Mike Tyson? Seriously? The same Mike Tyson who once turned Michael Spinks into a human speed bump in 91 seconds? The same guy who turned Marvis Frazier's lights out in 60 seconds flat? The sheer audacity of Jake's claim was so ridiculous it was almost painful to watch. Here was a man whose boxing career is more about Instagram followers than actual fights, standing in front of a living legend and acting like he was about to make history. The only history Jake's making is how fast he can eat his own words. And then the host, probably trying to stir the pot a little more, asked Tyson how it felt to be up against a young killer. The room held its breath, waiting for Tyson's response. But Tyson, being the master of understatement, delivered a knockout with just one sentence.
Is he really a young killer?
In the end, Jake's words did nothing but dig his own grave. Tyson didn't need to shout, didn't need to get angry. He just let Jake's words hang there, knowing they would crumble under the weight of reality. While Jake was busy dreaming about knockouts, Tyson quietly reminded everyone why he's one of the most feared fighters in history. The press conference wasn't just a face-off, it was a reality check for Jake Paul. A reminder that no amount of trash talk can change the fact that he's stepping into the ring with a man who's as dangerous now as he was at his peak. What Jake failed to understand is that boxing isn't about who can shout the loudest or who can come up with the best insults. It's about who can back it up in the ring. While Jake was busy rehearsing his trash talk, Tyson was mentally preparing for a fight, drawing on decades of experience that Jake couldn't even begin to comprehend. But Jake Paul just couldn't help himself. He went after the one thing he thought might actually give him an edge: Tyson's age. Relic of the past, Jake sneered, as if the number of birthdays Tyson celebrated could somehow outweigh the countless knockouts he's delivered. But here's where Jake missed the mark entirely. Tyson's age isn't a weakness, it's a badge of honor. It's proof that he's survived and thrived in a sport that eats up younger fighters and spits them out broken. Mocking a man for lasting longer in the ring than most could even dream of was Jake's first, and frankly, dumbest move. But of course, he didn't stop there. Jake, clearly running out of ideas, decided to mock Tyson's health. Yeah, he went there. He took aim at something completely out of Tyson's control, making it clear just how little he understood about the man he was up against. He should have appreciated that Tyson didn't postpone their fight because he couldn't handle it. He did it because he wanted to do things the right way. At 58, Tyson could have easily said, "Forget it, I've got nothing to prove." and canceled the whole thing. But that's not who he is. But Jake? He just didn't get it. Instead of showing an ounce of respect, he ridiculed Tyson for the decision.
Yeah, you had to go on your little menopause break and postpone the fight.
Jake taunted, sounding more like a playground bully than a professional athlete.
So yeah, what about that, dog? I was ready before. You needed a little break. Your tummy hurt? Your tummy hurt still?
The crowd didn't know whether to laugh or cringe. Here was a guy mocking a legend's health, not realizing that Tyson's postponement was an act of responsibility, not weakness. It was a low blow, even for Jake. Tyson's been all about the sport, the legacy, the fans. But Jake's only concerned about one thing: money.
I didn't bring him to do I'm here to make $40 million and knock out a legend. I don't give a about anything else.
And there it was, the stark contrast between the two fighters. And that's where Jake's arrogance really came back to bite him. By focusing solely on the money and the fame, he completely underestimated Tyson's sharp wit and no-nonsense approach. Tyson's point at this point was clear. He's faced real killers in the ring, fighters who earned their place through blood, sweat, and tears. Jake? Jake thought he could humiliate Tyson, a man who survived more than Jake could ever imagine. But all he did was make himself look foolish. His attempts to roast Tyson fell flat, not because they weren't clever, but because they showed just how little he understood about who Tyson really is. While Jake was busy mocking Tyson's age, health, and past, Tyson was quietly waiting, knowing that when the time came, his fists would do all the talking that needed to be done. After the press conference, things took a real twist when Logan Paul, Jake's own brother, grabbed the mic and asked Tyson a question that had everyone in the room on edge. He wanted to know why Tyson was throwing around words like beautiful, peaceful, and terrified when talking about Jake. This is Mike Tyson we're talking about, the guy who's more beast than man in the ring. And here he was sounding almost gentle? Logan's confusion was understandable, but Tyson's response was anything but soft. With a calmness that only comes from someone who's truly stared down their own demons, Tyson didn't jump into the bravado that Jake had been slinging all night. Instead, he gave everyone in the room a glimpse into the mind of a man who's been to hell and back. "That's gonna happen," Tyson started, almost as if he was acknowledging that the beast inside him wasn't gone, just sleeping. But then, he dropped a bomb that left everyone silent.
But this is what I learned from prior experience. When that tough guy Mike Tyson comes out, when it's not necessary to come out, I'm always in handcuffs. So I'm very careful when that guy comes out.
And there it was, Tyson, the man who once bit off a piece of Evander Holyfield's ear in a fit of rage, was talking about the very monster inside him that he spent years trying to control. This wasn't just a fighter speaking. This was a man who knows what it's like to lose control, to let anger dictate his actions, and to pay the price for it. That tough guy Tyson mentioned? He's not just some persona for the cameras. He's real, and he's dangerous. Jake Paul is lucky, incredibly lucky, that Tyson has learned to keep that beast on a leash outside the ring. Because when that guy does come out, the results are terrifying. We're talking about a man who, at his peak, could end a fight with one punch. Opponents didn't just fear losing. They feared leaving the ring in a stretcher. Or worse. But here's where Tyson really hit everyone with the truth. He looked straight into the camera, and you could feel the weight of his words.
I wish I could stop that guy. I wish I could stop that guy. I wish that guy died.
This wasn't some dramatic line, because this was Tyson, raw and real, admitting that the toughest opponent he's ever faced is himself. The beast inside Tyson isn't something he's proud of. It's something he wishes would just disappear. For a man as fearsome as Tyson to wish that part of him would die, that says everything you need to know about the kind of internal struggle he's been through. And just when you thought Tyson couldn't get more real, he turned his attention back to Jake with a statement that cut through all the noise. But Jake, with all his youthful arrogance, hasn't faced those consequences yet. He's playing a game that Tyson mastered years ago, and he doesn't even know the rules. That's where the real danger lies for Jake. He thinks that by running his mouth, by hurling insults and making big claims, he can get under Tyson's skin. Maybe even win the mental battle before they step into the ring. But Tyson isn't playing that game. He's not going to get dragged into a war of words, because he knows at the end of the day, it's not the words that matter. It's the fists. And Tyson's fists? They're backed by a lifetime of pain, power, and raw, untamed fury that Jake can't even begin to understand.